Hey everybody, welcome back to History Student Reacts. Today we'll be watching Rome Season 2, Episode 10, About Your Father. This is the last episode of HBO's Rome. It's been a long journey, and I really do thank everyone who's been following along. Now, in the last episode, we saw Atia and Octavia sent to Egypt to purposefully be embarrassed by Mark Antony, which essentially allowed Octavian to provoke him into war. Now, open war is breaking out between Octavian and Mark Antony, and all of this is coming to an end. Now, as always, if you're watching on YouTube and you would like to see this full episode unedited, or my reaction to every episode of HBO's Rome unedited, then you can find those on my Patreon, which is linked down below. And if you're watching on Patreon, thank you so much for all of the support throughout both of these seasons of Rome. Now, with all that out of the way, let's jump right into this reaction. Oh, is this Actium? Are we starting with the end of the Battle of Actium?
He's gone. Put him over.
Kinda seems like it.
All my life, I've been fearful of defeat. But now that it has come, it's not near as terrible as I'd expected.
Right, so we are covering the aftermath of the Battle of Actium. I will say, Antony was no stranger to defeat. We didn't really cover it in this series, but he sort of recently had a pretty bad defeat to the Parthians. So, the Battle of Actium, they don't usually show the big battles in this show. Sometimes they do, often not. That was the big battle between Antony and Octavian. Really the decisive battle of this conflict, this massive naval battle. Octavian is essentially, he's involved, but Agrippa is sort of the one running the show. It's really Agrippa versus Antony and Cleopatra. Essentially, Agrippa masterminds this very ingenious joint land and sea attack. Antony is sort of boxed in. He doesn't have many options. He's sort of forced into an engagement, and Agrippa wins, right? Antony and Cleopatra end up fleeing. There's some speculation about whether Cleopatra had intended to flee from the beginning, and if perhaps Antony had intended to flee, or if Cleopatra had and Antony hadn't, or maybe neither of them had, and they just sort of felt in the moment it was the time to get out of there. Whatever it is, both of them in the end flee from this battle, which Antony has decisively lost. And in the aftermath, Antony is pretty depressed. He sort of knows the game is up. He sort of enters into this era of depression, alcoholism. He's doing a lot of drinking. It's, not great for old Mark Antony. But this is the decisive battle of the conflict that Antony has just lost.
Glorious news! At Actium, in Greece, the navy of our Imperator, Octavian Caesar, under the command of Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa, has won a decisive victory over Queen Cleopatra and her slave, Mark Antony.
Yeah, I like the framing, because as we talked about last time, Octavian has made this effort, and he's been very successful in portraying Mark Antony as someone who has turned his back on Rome, has turned to Egypt, and has been seduced, is under the spell of the brilliant Cleopatra, right? This Eastern seductress. That was sort of the propaganda. And when the Roman Senate declares war, they actually declare war on Cleopatra, not on Mark Antony, or even on Egypt, on her individually. So you see the framing here is that we've defeated Cleopatra and her slave Mark Antony, right? Very interesting, but very purposeful.
The Egyptian fleet has been destroyed. Even now, Octavian Caesar advances on Alexandria, where the witch and her creature take refuge.
Apparently Cleopatra took fright and fled as soon as the battle started. And that cowardly villain Antony jumped in a boat and chased after her. Left his men to die for the sake of lust.
Right, so there was speculation, like I said, essentially as the battle's heating up, Cleopatra and her fleet, they move in, but they're not intending to get involved in the battle, they're getting out of there. And Antony, he joins. Now, once again, it's sort of unclear what planning was done beforehand. There's a lot of suspicion that Cleopatra had intended to flee from the beginning. She was not interested in getting her fleet destroyed, but that may or may not be true. And then, the question where it's really unclear is, did Antony intend to flee from the beginning? We have reports that after he joins Cleopatra, he's very angry at her. He doesn't speak to her for a couple of days. Now, you could imagine that's because he wanted her to stay and fight and not flee, which he felt forced him into fleeing, but we don't really know, right? All we know is that in the end, Antony loses, and him and Cleopatra get out of there and sort of leave Antony's men.
Antony's no coward. As soon as they knew they'd lost the battle, they fled to save the gold that they'd stowed on Cleopatra's ship. They planned to fight on, no doubt. They cannot do that without money. It wasn't cowardice.
It's not what my husband says.
Your husband's a liar.
Dear me. One might wonder whose side you're on.
He wasn't like that as a child. He was a good, honest boy. I don't know what happened.
Are you sure about that? We saw Octavian as a child, and a good, honest boy is not how I would describe him. He was sadistic, he was always one step ahead of everybody else, and he was willing to lie if necessary. Sort of exactly the same way I describe him as an adult.
To blame, probably.
If you maintain Cleopatra and her progeny on the throne, His Honor Mark Antony, by his sacred oath, will withdraw from public life. He will reside quietly in Egypt.
So now we see the negotiations, right? So Octavian has defeated Antony in this big battle. Now, like I said, this is the decisive battle, but it doesn't bring the war to an end in an instant, right? There's still more to be done. Octavian, as we saw in that text, has pursued to Egypt, right? So now they're all in pretty close proximity. Octavian's absolutely got the upper hand, and they need to work out some sort of arrangement.
He will reside quietly in Egypt as a private citizen and promises never to engage in any way whatsoever with politics.
Tell him no. He will put himself and his woman in my hands without conditions.
Yes, sir.
There is a man close to Antony. His name is Lucius Vorenus. I want you to speak to him alone. Tell him Titus Pullo is here and will answer for his safety if he can find a way to open the gates.
You can tell him that, but it won't do any good.
Is there some word we could send him that he knows comes only from you? Pullo, if need be, I will burn down the palace, with all inside.
Tell him that his children are well, and that I hope my child is well also.
Oh, wow.
Private joke.
You'll
understand.
Interesting. Private joke, eh?
Speak.
His Honor Gaius Octavian Caesar states that his answer is no.
That's all.
He demands that you surrender yourself and your people without conditions.
Calm.
I am calm. I am. You go and tell.
I'm interested to see how this all plays out, what sort of timeline we're following. I will point out that, in the actual timeline, Antony, Cleopatra flee to Egypt. Of course, they get there much before Octavian does. In fact, Octavian takes a little bit of a break. He allows some of his older veterans to retire, especially those veterans who had been serving back with old Julius Caesar and is stuck on with Octavian. Octavian says, okay, y'all can go. So he actually takes quite a bit of time. Antony and Cleopatra set up back in Alexandria, and then Octavian pursues. And actually, sort of by the end here, Antony and Cleopatra are a little bit separated, sort of maybe emotionally, but definitely physically. Cleopatra sort of realizes that, Antony's in a lot of trouble. He's lost this battle. Maybe I should go my own way. But here what we have is both of them sort of together, still united, but I wonder if we'll see that break down at some point.
You go and tell. That.
Frog-spawned homunculus that I...
We must remain calm.
Oh, Vorenus.
Vorenus, find this man a drink or something.
Surrender, he says. I'd sooner eat my own children than surrender to him.
We could escape by night. In disguise. We could go south.
So, Antony, the soldier, is very personally defeated and offended. Like I said, at this point, and we might see this throughout the episode, in the sort of history, Antony had really fallen sort of deeply into drinking, depression. He was pretty hopeless. You can see here, he's sort of offended by the suggestion. You know, Antony, he's sort of done at this point. He'd rather go out in flames, which is, I think, pretty true to his character. Whereas Cleopatra, she's still got a kingdom to protect, right? She's got a lot of money that they brought back with them. You know, she's still got her kingdom. And so she's thinking, well, maybe we flee south and try to establish myself there. I don't know if we'll see this in this episode or not, but she's going to start thinking, uh-oh, maybe I'm going to need to make some deal separate from Mark Antony, right? She is still thinking big picture. She's got a lot to lose. Mark Antony at this point doesn't have much to lose.
And hide under bushes like hunted animals. No, I cannot run.
I will be guided by you, naturally. If you think there is some other path available to us.
Death. Death is available to us.
Some military trick, some clever ruse to turn things about. You're so good at that sort of thing.
Oh, piss and blood, woman. I'm a soldier. Not a fucking magician. Look around us. Whores, hermaphrodites, and lick spittle. This is our army now. This is all we have left.
Don't know if that was quite the scene, but Antony is right that they don't have much left. And like I said, frankly, he's got a lot less than she does. Cleopatra, she's got something left. Antony, he's really got nothing.
Titus Pullo says that your children are well. He hopes his child is well also. He says it is a private joke that you'll understand.
So he's here?
And close to Caesar. He answers for your safety. If you will forsake Antony and find a way to open the gates.
You tell Titus Pullo that his son is well.
But he has forgotten who I am.
Maybe you should think on it a while. What other way?
You! Emissary! A challenge. I challenge your master to single combat.
Oh, sir?
Let him meet me face to face with sword and shield, just as our ancestors did. Then we shall see who is the better man.
I mean, this is just not the level Octavian is operating on. You know what I mean? We're dealing with this massive civil war, this political combat between the two, along with actual combat. Octavian's just so many levels above this. And plus, we know Octavian's no fighter. There's just zero chance he's interested in this. You know, Antony, like we said, he doesn't have much left. He's desperate. There really isn't anything he can do. Octavian still wants to come to some type of agreement. He knows that's probably the best path for him, but he holds almost all the cards.
Oh, this is the way? How can he refuse?
He can refuse easily.
His honor is at stake. He must accept, or he will be exposed as a coward.
Oh, this is just, and I don't believe any such challenge was actually made in the history, but this is just not seeing the situation for what it is. Octavian couldn't care less about that. He cares about winning this war. Also, Octavian controls everything. He controls all this territory. He controls the propaganda machine. Antony's just not got anything. And by the way, by the time Octavian is really making his way into Egypt, he's basically contacted all of these regional allies Antony has cultivated in the East, and he's told them, hey, under me, I'll let you keep your positions, right? And a lot of them have said, okay, I'll go with you. They see the wind is blowing. They do not want to be stuck to Antony. Even though Antony had cultivated those alliances, he had given up a lot of territory and authority, or given up territory, had let a lot of people govern territory in partnership with Rome. Of course, there were the donations of Alexandria, but that's more to his family, his kids, Cleopatra's family. We're talking more about the more general allies in the East. You know, they all leave Antony because they see that the war is over, right? So Antony, not only has he lost the vast majority of his army, but he's also lost almost all of his allies in the East, his regional allies, right? Antony, he just doesn't have anything.
Renus.
Highness.
Octavian's going to kill me. Is he not?
They're negotiating. You'll be all right.
Do not lie to me. There can only be one son of Caesar. If anyone dies, it will be me.
Talk that way loud enough, the gods will hear you and they'll make it so. Hmm? Come with me to the armory. I'll get you a decent sword.
I mean, Caesarion is right to be concerned. You know, he, in terms of sort of legitimacy, is the biggest threat to Octavian. You know, this idea as Caesarion as a real heir to Caesar has been a threat to Octavian that Cleopatra and Mark Antony have used. However, the sort of added wrinkle in this show is that they have heavily implied, essentially downright stated here, that Caesarion is actually Titus Pullo's son, which is interesting. I wonder how that's going to shape things, because, you know, in the actual history, of course, Caesarion was not recognized as a legitimate child by Roman society, by Octavian definitely, but he was the child of Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. That was not really disputed, maybe by some, but that was true. Whereas in this case, Caesarion is believed to be the son of Caesar, but is actually the son of Pullo.
Comes to a fight, you can give as good as you get.
Single combat.
With sword and shield.
He's gone mad, has he?
I'd say more drunk or drugged than mad, sir.
What of Cleopatra? Is she in the same condition?
No, sir. Sober. Alert.
Uh-huh.
And Lucius Vorenus?
Remains loyal to Antony.
Thank you. Stay close by.
A siege, then. I'll inform the engineers.
Even a madman could hold that palace for weeks. Months.
Burn it down, then.
We need to keep the Egyptian people quiet. I suspect destroying the royal palace with their queen inside might make them rather peevish.
What then?
This is for your queen alone. No other. Is that clear?
Yes.
So, clearly, Octavian sees the situation. He sees that Antony is quickly becoming irrelevant to this situation, and that Cleopatra is the one he needs to be dealing with. You know, Antony's got nothing left. Whereas Cleopatra, she's still got her kingdom. There's a whole lot of people here. Octavian doesn't want this stretched out military conflict in Egypt. He wants this to end pretty quickly, and he thinks the best way to do that is to negotiate with Cleopatra.
Ah, young Hermes has returned. So, what does the boy say when we meet?
Sir, Octavian Caesar respectfully refuses your challenge.
Of course.
And asks the same terms as before.
Of course he does.
If those terms are not accepted, fire and siege works will begin tomorrow.
You tell him to shove his terms up his ass. Huh? Good lad.
Oh, Antony. How far you've fallen. This is not a good moment for him. And though the details may not be quite accurate, like I said, Antony had really fallen into sort of depression, hopelessness, drinking, drugs, as we see here. So this is probably somewhat representative of Antony's actual state in this moment.
What are you all looking at? Eh? Enjoy yourselves, you scum! Eat! 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 Drink! Music! Come and have a drink with me.
Oh, God. Not really a fun drinking partner.
Now, do you see that? Do you see that, you Gippo cunts? That is how a real Roman drinks.
To Her Majesty.
The thing is, Antony, you're not in Rome. This is the problem. This is what Octavian got you on, that you left Rome behind and you went to Egypt. There's, it's somewhat exaggerated, but somewhat true. The people of Rome felt that you betrayed her, Antony. And you can see, in some ways, he's sort of pining for his homeland, for Rome. Things are different here. And he's also realizing that when the going gets tough, it's not really him who has the authority, especially in his degraded state. It's Cleopatra. I mean, Rome may be the greater power between Rome and Egypt, but Cleopatra is the queen here. Antony, well, he's sort of an outsider. Of course, when he's riding high, ruling the East, looking like, oh yeah, he's got a good position against Octavian. Sure, he can come in and do what he wants, and because, once again, Rome is this impressive power. But now, Antony, in no way can you believe he represents Rome. Obviously, at this point, Octavian does. And so, Cleopatra's the one with that authority. Antony is in a tough spot.
To Her Majesty, Queen Cleopatra Philopata. I fully understand that you have been led into this predicament through no fault of your own by the renegade Mark Antony. If you will deliver him to me, either alive or dead being no matter, I promise to you on my oath that you and your people will be unharmed and treated with all respect. You shall retain your crown and all consonant rights.
He asks me to bring eternal dishonor on my name.
It's interesting. The depiction's interesting because I think by the end, I do think that Cleopatra and Antony did genuinely care about each other. There are some hints to that in the real history. But, as we've talked about, Cleopatra was also someone who had this broad view of the political situation. I think she was quite a political schemer, just like Octavian, right? They had that in common. And so she's willing to do a lot to maintain her position. Now this, and maybe a step too far, maybe not. As I said, in this actual situation, Antony and Cleopatra were actually separated. Cleopatra had essentially boarded herself up in her mausoleum. And more than boarded herself up, she'd really blocked herself in with Egypt's treasury, which was her leverage. Whereas Antony, and you'll see there's, the details are different, but, the vibe is sort of similar. Antony was sort of sullying out with his troops in hopeless attempts to win this conflict, which were never going to work, right? He had already basically lost. That's what the situation was actually. It's a little bit different here, so I'm curious to see how she reacts to this offer from Octavian.
And in return, your empire, your people, Majesty's life.
My life. For my honor.
Good enough. Better than death.
That is a slave's answer.
Majesty has felt Anubis breathe on her before now. She knows her slave is right. She wants to live.
I think she does. There he is. Of course, I will say the real issue, the issue is giving up Mark Antony, but also giving up her son, Caesarion. Now, I don't know if Octavian put that in his little note, but you got to imagine that if she comes to some sort of agreement with him, Octavian is going to want Caesarion dead. There's sort of no other way around that. Well, maybe they'll find another way around, but from Octavian's perspective, that's what has to happen. Here comes Antony. Drunk.
There you are. What are you doing here? Hmm? Come back to the party.
Maybe later.
Yeah. What's the matter, poor baby? Are you sad?
Of course I am sad. Look at you. Look at us. Apollo and Isis, it's pathetic.
Yeah. Come on, come back to reality, buddy.
I'm sorry. I do not mean that.
No, it's true.
Remember your roots, Anthony. A simple soldier who
These years
worked his
together
way up.
have been the happiest of my life.
We lived, didn't we?
We did.
Octavian will burn the palace tomorrow. We must decide how to end this. And when.
Yes.
Why not now?
No, dear, let's not go in darkness.
Oh, yeah?
Tomorrow in the sunlight.
Oh, wow.
Tomorrow.
That's something. That's something. So, quite an emotional scene there. We see both of them are really coming to terms. But they're coming to terms with something different. Right? Antony is coming to terms with the end of his life. He thinks that him and Cleopatra, they're going to take their own lives and end this. Cleopatra, well, she's also coming to terms with Antony's death, but not her own. Right? She's coming to terms with essentially betraying Antony and trying to negotiate with Octavian. Wow. Oh, Varenus.
Do you believe there is an afterlife?
Of course.
Well, there are people who say no. And this is all there is.
Who says that?
Learned men. Greeks, probably.
Greeks. Greeks talk a whole pile of nonsense. Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em.
Most Roman line ever.
Mark Antony. Sir.
What's happened?
Ah. I see.
Dearest love, forgive me for leaving you this way. You know how I hate to say goodbye. I will see you again on the other side.
Oh.
Please, come quickly.
Yeah.
Why did she wait for me?
This is tragic.
Queens die alone. It's the custom. With her last breath, she called your name.
You liar. This is terrible. Oh, Anthony, I feel bad for him, man.
You go away. Here it is, then.
Here it is.
Anything to be rid of this fucking hangover. This won't do. Let's use a proper Roman sword.
I mean, Vorenus knows what must be done, right? He knows what the sort of honorable way out is. It's probably the same way Vorenus would take if he was in that situation. He knows.
Let's use a proper Roman sword. It's a damn good sword. It's a good place to die at any rate. Could have been a ditch in Gaul.
True.
Men that knew Alexander once stood here.
Good a place as any, I suppose.
Lucius Vorenus. Iron to the end.
Yeah.
Don't you die here with me. You get out what you can, huh?
Yes. Good advice.
I'll do that.
That's an order, Vorenus. Get out.
It's been an honor serving with you, sir.
Has it? I hope so. You could brace it there.
Any instructions or messages, sir?
Just tell the people I died well. I died Roman.
Oh, Mark Antony. There he goes. Ah, you were watching, eh? Gonna go report back. Respectful. Dress him like a true Roman. He's a man of great achievement. Okay, I didn't want to, in case you didn't know, I didn't want to spoil anything. But let me talk now a little bit about, first of all, well, let me talk about Mark Antony and also how this happened in real life. So I'll say first on Mark Antony, I mean, I really loved how he was depicted in the show. Reading through the actual history, Mark Antony was never someone who I really connected with that much, at least no more than anyone else. The depiction in the show, I really loved. I really loved how they depicted him here. This sort of soldier, that's his life, that's what he does, that's how he makes his way up to be Caesar's right-hand man. I really loved his depiction. He was kind of a knucklehead many times, and his first and last option was always violence. He's a very straightforward kind of guy. I found the depiction pretty charming, though. I really like how they depicted him in this show. And I think probably pretty true to his real character in many ways. Now, the death. What really happens with Mark Antony's death? So, like I said, at this point, Cleopatra and Antony were actually physically separated, right? Cleopatra was barricaded in her mausoleum. Antony was, frankly, mostly getting drunk, not doing much. So, a servant comes to him. I mean, there are some similarities between what we saw right here and what actually happened. There's some differences, but some similarities. A servant comes to him and says Cleopatra is dead. Now, there's a lot we don't know, as in, we don't know if it was a genuine mistake, because there's a lot of death going around, or if it was planned. That's what they're depicting here. I think there's a good chance it was planned to trick Antony, like we saw in the show. So what Antony does is it's him and another servant. He gives that servant his sword to kill him. What the servant does is they instead kill themselves. And so Antony has to pick up his own sword. This, I mean, it's quite a sad way to go, but they did make it somewhat dignified with Vorenus there. Antony's actual death was even less dignified. He stabs himself, but he sort of misses the heart, the chest. He hits himself in the stomach, so he collapses to the ground, alive. People find him. They drag him over to Cleopatra's mausoleum. Since all the entrances are boarded up, they essentially have to winch him up, like with the rope and pulley. They pull him up into there, where he is slowly bleeding out, dying. Apparently, she was very upset to see him, right? So, maybe you think it wasn't planned. Or maybe, like it was shown here, she did plan it, but she was still upset in the end. He gets winched on up, and he slowly bleeds out and dies. And of course, Cleopatra is still alive, which was the reveal I was waiting before I got into all of this. So that's the real story of Antony's death. A pretty sad way to go. Also, like I said, a little less dignified than the way they presented it here. So yeah, character of Mark Antony, one I really enjoyed in this show. Now let's get back to perhaps Vorenus' shock at Cleopatra still being alive. Are they gonna frame him or something? Or just accept that this was a suicide? There's no way Vorenus can accept this, man. He's got no loyalty to Cleopatra. He was loyal to Antony.
My poor love. Bring the children.
Oh, Vorenus. He's at his wit's end.
Lucius Vorenus wishes to speak.
No.
Then he shall stop looking at me.
He might kill you, watch it.
I gave you an order.
I take no orders from you.
I let you live because Antony was fond of you. Do not test me now.
Kiss my
Ass! You're lucky I don't open your stomach!
I wonder that you had not done the honorable thing and followed your captain.
Oh, I would. But I have to get Caesarion out of here.
What do you mean?
If he stays, Octavian will kill him.
He's perfectly safe. I've made a pact with Octavian. I keep my crown, and no harm will come to my people.
Octavian may let you live, so he can parade you through
Yep.
the forum in your crown. To Antony's children, he will show public mercy and kindness. But Caesarion, another son of Caesar, Octavian will kill him.
No.
Yes, Vorenus knows exactly what's up. I told you earlier, whatever deal Octavian has made with Cleopatra, there is a 0% chance he lets Caesarion live. That's a direct threat to his legitimacy. Not gonna happen. Also, I like that we've got Antony looming over the conversation in the background here, as I guess the two, in the end, remaining important people in his life sort of argue about things. It's quite a shot.
He's just a child.
He'll die. And for what? You both know he's not the son of Caesar.
We know nothing of the sort.
I was there at his conception.
It doesn't matter what you say. He is the son of Caesar.
Now, whoever he is, if he stays here, he dies. You'd see that if your desire to live hadn't blinded you.
And you? Why would you save him? What is he to you?
He's nothing, but his father is my friend. I'll take the boy to him.
The man. What's his name?
Titus Pullo.
Yes. Is he a good man?
Define good.
Put on your traveling clothes.
Okay.
You're leaving with Lucius Vorenus for your safety. But my place is here, with you. Traveling clothes. Now.
Here he comes. Augustus. Almost in his true final form.
My condolence for your loss.
He died well.
If there's anything we can do for you, anything you need,
It's so kind of you to ask.
your well-being is my chief concern.
Thank you. I have been so scared. I'm not anymore.
No?
Antony painted you as a cruel monster. But it is not so. I sense that you are a good and honest man.
Is that right?
I'm not wrong, am I?
No.
My children and I are perfectly safe.
You are.
Even Caesarion.
He's just a boy. He's no threat to me.
Lies.
I keep my crown. I remain Queen of Egypt.
You are Egypt.
This is an interesting little negotiation. I will point out, in all actuality, Cleopatra did not open up the doors and let him saunter in like that. Essentially, they're sort of negotiating through walls, and one of Octavian's men manages to sneak his way in there. And from then on, Octavian gets his men in, and they're able to enter Cleopatra's mausoleum. And then, well, he's allowed to come and go as he pleases because he is Octavian. And then the sort of negotiation continues from there.
How could I replace you?
I am content. We shall be good friends.
We shall. As a friend, would you grant me one favor?
Of course.
Come with me to Rome.
Ah.
Let the Roman people see and rejoice that Egypt and Caesar are reconciled.
I would like that very much. Perhaps next summer when our mourning for Antony is done.
Yes. Or perhaps sooner. My ship is large and comfortable.
It's so good of you. I shall have to consult my priest. A voyage so soon after a death.
Please. You would be doing me an immense honor by coming with me as a guest. I would be eternally grateful.
How can I refuse?
And the children, of course. You must bring the children.
Naturally. Caesarion is longing to see Rome again.
Good.
So we can see here, I was going to say this is sort of a veiled threat, but there's not really any veil. This is an open threat. And this was another one of the sticking points in the actual negotiation, right? So one was Caesarion, and one was this whole situation, right? So Cleopatra is hoping to keep her position, keep her kingdom, essentially. Octavian, he wants to bring her back to Rome and parade her through the streets in a triumph, right? I've seen these before. The triumph was this big Roman military parade where they often would parade captured enemy monarchs or leaders through their streets. Cleopatra, she would be perhaps the biggest prize they'd ever taken. That's quite a prestigious individual. Now, there's that sort of element of humiliation, which Cleopatra really refuses to endure, but also, he's essentially taking her and her children captive, right? She's losing any leverage that she does have, which already isn't much. So that's another sticking point in the actual negotiation between these two. Now we'll see how it plays out in the show. Obviously, she's trying to play nice in front of everybody, but I don't know what's actually going on in her head.
We sail tomorrow.
So soon?
The winds are with us. We'd be ashamed to delay.
Tomorrow, then.
She's got no option. Well, she's got one option. Yeah. Not what she wanted to hear.
Close the doors! I'm sorry, my love.
Yeah.
I was hungry to live.
Yeah, she must be feeling pretty bad in this moment. You know? She's thinking, damn, I love Antony, but I'm gonna sacrifice him in order to keep my position, keep my throne, keep my kingdom. Well, she is basically as good as killed Antony, though he was probably going out either way. She has directly led to his death, and in return, she is getting humiliated by Octavian and essentially taken into captivity, right? So she's not really going to get anything that she wants. Octavian has got all the leverage.
But you were right about that boy. The monster. He only wants me alive to parade me in chains for a mob to spit on.
Yep. Just as he said.
I lied to you for nothing. Please don't be angry with me.
Uh-oh. This is... He's dead. This is gross. This is a dead body.
Bring the old woman.
She's a sharp little piece, eh? Oof. She'll look well in nothing but chains.
We should have taken her there and then.
Why abduct her when she'll come of her own accord?
That's funny.
And what if she follows Mark Antony instead?
She betrayed Antony so that she might live. Why would she lose heart now?
Well, she is losing heart now. It is funny, Agrippa here say we should have taken her there and then, right? Very straightforward. Whereas Octavian, right? Octavian can absolutely be forceful, but he's always, well, I was going to say he's always wanted to take the easier path. He walks his own path, but he'll always try and take the easier route if possible, right? So a very Octavian thing. Well, why kidnap her publicly if she'll come on her own accord? Well, because of what we're about to see happen.
She betrayed Antony so that she might live. Why would she lose heart now?
You can have that effect on people.
No, I was all sweetness and light with her.
No, you weren't.
Charm itself.
Yes, that is your most disheartening manner.
Yeah. You were extremely threatening, my man.
Which leaves one looking best? I want no bloating or discoloration.
The snake. But
Is it quick?
40 breaths.
The snake, then. Where's the best spot?
Wrist or breast, no matter.
Thank you. Make sure the children are safe before you follow me.
Yes, Majesty.
Now. Bite.
There she goes. The end of Cleopatra. So we can see she was under Roman guard here. I believe in real life she was under even closer Roman guard And so she does use poison to take herself out in the end, precisely because it's not noticeable, right? She needs to do it in a surreptitious manner. Now, there's been this myth, frankly, since the event happened, that she used a snake smuggled in to bite her. We really don't have evidence of that. It's probably that she used another type of poison, smuggled in some other way, or maybe on her person. She poisons herself and she dies. I mean, the snake is a very nice touch, but it's almost certainly not what actually happened, though it's, been depicted in many different ways. It's been believed for a long time. But she does go out through poison. Probably equally as rotten as yours.
What did she say?
She said I had a rotten soul.
Huh.
Oh.
Find the children!
Caesarion has escaped. With Lucius Vorenus. The man turns loyalty into a vice. Any notion where they might have gone?
Big country, Egypt.
Even now, I would be happy to forgive Vorenus if he surrendered himself and the boy.
He's made his choices.
Yes. It's a shame when it's just the boy needs to die. If only you could talk to him, Pullo. I'm sure you could persuade him of the right course to take.
Have to find him first.
I guess that's the added complexity here, which is, and I do wonder how this is going to work out. I wouldn't like to see Pullo or Vorenus dead, or even Caesarion, right? He's a child. But the complicated thing here is, obviously, I think if Caesarion was in this show the child of Julius Caesar and Cleopatra, which he actually was in real life, I don't think Pullo would have any issue with bringing him in to save his buddy Vorenus. Now, I think Vorenus still might stay loyal even until the end, so I don't know. But we've got the added complexity of Caesarion is, canonically at this point, Pullo's child. And so Pullo's got, his child and his friend. And, bringing them in will probably save Vorenus, but will kill Caesarion. He's in a bit of a pickle here, but of course they do need to find them first, and Egypt is a big country, so I guess we'll see how that turns out.
I could look for him.
Why don't you do that?
That's what he wanted to hear. I don't know what he'll do when he finds them. And like I said, in the real history, Caesarion did flee.
My rightful place, I shall be sure that you are properly rewarded. You may choose a province to govern, and any woman of the court.
Oh, thanks.
What's wrong?
Oh.
How's it going? Not so bad.
Oh.
Same.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know they had arranged
Never
this.
thought I'd see that ugly bastard glaring down at me again, though.
I knew you'd remember.
I missed that part.
This is him, then.
This is him.
Who is this man?
Name's Titus Pullo.
I do not like your manner.
Handsome, isn't he?
What are they gonna
Would he
do?
be bigger? There are 10 legions out looking for him. Patrols on all the roads west to Africa. All the Upper Nile ports. It's the only way to go is south.
So we can cut back across the desert towards the river of the cataracts. I'll go with you as far as Judea. You can get a ship from there. You can buy a ship if you want. His mother gave me a heavy purse.
You'll not come with us?
No. Head out east, maybe. You always need soldiers out there.
You still have kids back at Rome, Vorenus. I know that you've really taken this thing to the end. And I guess if he doesn't agree to turn in Caesarion. He's a wanted man. If Octavian finds him, he'll probably execute him. So I guess that's the case. But it's a real shame that he can't go back and tend to his family.
Probably won't even make it out of Egypt.
Are they going to tell Caesarion who his real father is? Ah.
How are the children?
So I mean, obviously I saw Apollo picking that up in the place. I didn't really connect it, though. But message from Varinus.
How are the children?
Well enough. Verina the Elder's at the Temple of Obona with Lydie. Lucius got apprenticed to a stonemason.
Stonemason? Now that's a decent trade.
Uh-huh.
He's on fire to be a soldier.
You're not encouraging him, are you?
No, of course not. Verina the Younger, now, she's a little tiger. Still doesn't speak much mind, but practically runs the tavern. Anyone misbehaves, and she gives him a look like Medusa on the rag.
And Gaia?
That didn't end so well.
No?
Long story.
Yeah. Like the olden times with those two.
When did you return? We had no news of your arrival.
We docked this morning at Ostia. I came directly here. Mother, Antony is dead. By his own hand.
I see. Well, thank you for telling me. My congratulations. You're as good as king now.
True.
Not king. Merely first citizen.
I love this. I mean, so Octavian takes on the title Princeps, right? First citizen, which I love that they brought that up there, which is basically a facade to hide the fact that he might as well be king, right? Octavian at this point is all powerful. Soon he will get the title Augustus, which I believe means the revered one or something like that. And of course, the title Caesar Augustus will be passed down to all the future emperors, right? In reality, Augustus is the first emperor of Rome. But, you know, he always likes to pretend that, well, I'm merely the first citizen, the first among you. I'm no emperor, but that's what he actually is, you know? So Octavian likes to do this dance where he pretends he's not what he actually is, and he still makes the Senate feel important, even though he has all the power. He's pretty good at that.
He only offers to parley and says the whole thing was your fault in the first place and that me and him should make peace.
What did you reply?
I headbutted the cunning and bit his tongue out.
Took that as a no then, did he?
You bit out his tongue.
I did. Tasted like chicken.
That is disgusting.
Cack. 15 goals says I kill more than you. Best keep clear, boy. It's gonna get wet.
Wait, we can talk our way past.
Yeah, right. As soon as His Majesty opens his mouth, we're cooked. Let's just go at it.
No, that's an order.
Grumpy and cautious as ever.
Still taking orders from Varinus.
Salve, Captain.
Romans are here.
We are.
Don't see many citizens out here. What's your business?
Hunting sphinxes.
No such thing as sphinxes.
Now you tell us.
We're grain merchants on the road to Memphis. We just lost our way.
Grain merchants. Yeah. Lost your way. What's your name, boy?
Aeneas.
Bit haughty for a slave.
He is. I beat him regular, but it doesn't do any good.
On your way, then.
Really?
We're on Monteco, Evolhem, Taza.
Oh.
Ina, ire, Rome.
Told you.
Brother, could you pretend a little bit? Oh.
Get down! Get under!
Jesus Christ. These two are quite the duo. Whoa. Where's he going? Just like old times.
Is he all right?
Huh? I've seen worse. He'll be fine. No, I'm done. Get right, you big girl. It's just a few scratches.
No, come on.
We just need to lay up somewhere for a rest. A couple of days, you'll be back on your feet.
Take me home.
Home. Home's a long way. Best we just... I don't want to die in this fucking shit. I want to see my children. Take me home. All right, brother. All right. We'll do that.
Oh. Oh, man. Come on, Marinas. Pull through. 1 month later. Okay.
Elio, stop chasing Antonia.
It's not a matter of choice. I don't feel well. No wonder. You could choke Vulcan in here. Today's your triumph as much as his.
I don't think that's gonna make her feel any better. Worse, actually.
Today's your triumph as much as his. Mother to the first citizen, you should be happy.
Ray.
All my life, I've watched you strive for this moment.
Right.
Look at you.
It's amusing, isn't it?
I don't know what I shall do if you give up.
Atia's always wanted to be at the top of the hierarchy, and she's been pretty close to the top, right? You can remember back with old Julius Caesar, she was so latched to him, right? She felt that as well as their family member, he was their ticket to success. When he was gone, everything fell into chaos. Now she's here. She's as important as she could be. There's really nowhere else to go. She's as high as she could get, right? Mother to Octavian, he will soon be Augustus. You know, mother to the first emperor of Rome. And yet, look what it's taken to get her here. She's lost a lot. She's lost Antony, who, I guess in the end, really mattered to her, but, you know, how much does she matter to him? A bit, but not enough, right? Not enough to come and see her when she visited, right? So yeah, it's an interesting position she finds herself in. And like I said, I think last time, I think Atia wasn't really much in the historical record at this point, but I believe she'd already passed away. Maybe that's not the case. I don't think she plays a big role either way, even if she was alive, but I think she was dead at this point already.
Today, we celebrate the glory of our beloved Imperator, Gaius Octavian Caesar, and the glorious rebirth of our Republic. At the third hour, all trading will cease. The sacred way must be cleared of traffic. Servile violators will be whipped.
Oh, Varinus. He's alive, but not good.
Cats and torches.
Oh, sure.
Are you sure you won't come?
I've seen her try. I don't
You
know.
three, upstairs, tend to the cart.
Hello.
Look, you're back. This is Aeneas, a friend.
Blessings.
He's from Egypt. Children, I brought your father home.
Why did you bring him here?
He wants to see you. He's been wounded. He's going to die, likely.
Come on, show him a little mercy in the end.
Should have died weeks ago, but he wanted to get home. Won't last long now.
Thank you, Dr. Pullo.
You're awake then. Make up your mind.
Lady.
And of course, Pullo brought him all the way back. You know, I understand that his kids, especially Verena the Elder, really hate his guts. And of course, Varinus is not a perfect man. Far from it. But, first of all, he didn't do what they think he did. At least not exactly how they think he did it. And come on, a little mercy in the end. It's the end of his life.
Thank you, Dr. Pullo.
You're awake then. Make up your mind.
Lady. Where are the children? Where are the children?
Shh. Lie still. Lie still.
They don't want to see me. That's all right. You're stubborn. Stubborn like their mother.
Rest. Rest.
All right. What's that? Octavian Caesar.
Huh.
He's making his official return today.
Big parade. That's funny. I thought it was dying.
Father?
That's all he wanted. Oh, man.
Ladies, we shall be taking our places very shortly. I hope you're all ready. I'm sorry Mother Attio could not be here. I'm afraid my husband will take it as an insult.
Oh, it isn't meant as such.
Oh, I know. I know how fragile she is. But dear Octavian is so touchy about these public events. Everything must be just so.
He is touchy about the public events. You know, Octavian, just like Julius Caesar, his adopted father, he's got an eye for publicity, an eye for PR, you know, public images, what people are going to think, right? I mean, he's in some ways a populist like Caesar, you know, as he has to appeal to the people, and he knows what sort of messages are going to be sent, right? Octavian's a deft political operator. I've talked about this in previous episodes, Now, the sort of, way Octavian controlled Atia and Octavia in this season, it's not exactly true to what happens, right? And Octavia and Octavian actually have a pretty good relationship at this time, and they'll continue to have a good relationship, and Octavia will be, greatly respected by the people of Rome and held up as an example and all this sort of stuff. So it's not quite accurate, the relationship they portray here. However, there's a kernel of truth at the root of it, which is Octavian, throughout the rest of his life, is gonna have an issue with basically keeping his family under control, right? As Augustus, as emperor, his family is very important, He's always trying to stop them from doing things that will embarrass him, embarrass themselves, or at least what he interprets will embarrass them. He's always trying to look for an heir. He'll never really have true success with that. He has a lot of, failures trying to control his family. He gets really unlucky trying to find an heir. He sort of has a couple that he likes, and they all end up dying off, right? So there's a whole lot to say about that. But basically, Octavian is going to have a lot of issues trying to sort of keep his family within the bounds he expects them to remain within.
He has such faith in your judgment. I'm sure he'll forgive her if you speak kindly of her.
I will. I will.
It is time in
Yeah,
order of
right.
precedence, please.
Yeah, right. Oh.
Hello, ladies.
Mother. Yes, here I am. Let's just get this charade over with each other.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Oh, I don't mind, really. But it is I should go first. You will find if you consult the priests, the wife takes precedence.
I don't give a fuck what the priests say. I'll not let a vicious little trollop like you walk ahead of me.
Damn.
I go first.
I take no offense, of course. You are not yourself.
I know who you are. I can see you. You're swearing now that someday you'll destroy me. Remember, far better women than you have sworn to do the same. Go and look for them now.
It's not really true. I have to say, first of all, in the actual history, right, Atia is not really a part of the story at this point. Livia, I mean, she is about the best competitor Atia could have. In terms of someone taking the role that these two are trying to fulfill, aka the powerful female family member, whether a wife or a mother or a sister of a very important male political figure, in this case, literally the emperor, Livia does it best, really better than anybody else. In fact, she's pretty notorious for that. I said Octavian was a schemer like Cleopatra. Well, Livia's up there too. She's a real schemer in her own right. In fact, I think she often gets credit, or I should say blame, for a lot of things that she doesn't actually do. But she is a deft, in fact, the deftest operator behind the scenes and these sorts of semi-political, semi-personal affairs. So I have to say, I know this is sort of a satisfying moment for Atia getting her victory, but Livia is about the best to ever do it in this type of role. Now they'll parade everything brought from Egypt through the streets. And of course, this was a public ceremony that was given to many Roman generals throughout history. But really, in this moment, Octavian is stepping into that role of Augustus. He is now the closest thing Rome has had to a king since the kings of old. And in fact, he has a lot more power than them, right? With Rome's expanding empire. He's the emperor of Rome, and one of, if not, I think you can make a strong argument, the greatest emperor Rome ever had. The first to do it, set the precedence for everyone to follow. So this is a monumental moment, of course in Octavian's life, but in Roman history generally. Everyone opposing him, now essentially gone. Caesar's assassins, Cicero, Antony, Cleopatra.
Pullo. We'd given you up for dead.
Nah. One of these days, maybe. But not yet.
Well, I'm very glad to see you alive. Old friends are a rare commodity.
Yeah, a lot of your old friends have become your rivals and been killed, or now otherwise do not associate with you.
It's been a long road we have traveled together.
It has.
I sent you to find Caesarion. What happened?
I found him. He's dead.
You're certain?
Killed him myself.
How?
Cut his throat.
Where was this?
In the desert, some 40-odd miles south of Alex. I brought his head to show you, but it went bad. Didn't look like anyone, so I tossed it.
And Lucius Vorenus?
Didn't make it.
It's a shame.
It is.
He was a good man. I suppose you'll be wanting the reward then.
Oh. I hadn't thought of that. Wouldn't say no.
Oh, Pullo. Gotta love him.
So,
He bought it.
Brother Osiris, let me live to spit in his face and remind him of this day.
Didn't I tell you?
Of course, I can't remember if I clarified this or not. I don't think I did. I guess I was waiting until we saw the end of Little Caesarion. This is fiction, right? So this very much diverges from the real history, right? What really happens is that Octavian captures Caesarion in Egypt and he kills him, right? It ends as you would expect. Octavian cannot have this threat to his power surviving, and, with the resources Octavian has, Caesarion is not escaping, right? So they capture him, they kill him. And once again, remember, he is actually the son of Julius Caesar, which is why he's such a threat to Octavian. Here, things have been switched up a little bit, of course. Pullo has lied to Octavian, and Caesarion's still alive. So I guess he'll live as a sort of normal Roman boy? I don't know. It's a little strange. A hard transition for, an Egyptian monarch to make.
Brother, it is my sacred duty. By my blood I'll not rest until I have avenged my mother and redeemed my father's name.
Listen, about your father.
Uh-oh. So we don't get to see him reveal the truth. I was wondering about that. Wow. That's the end, eh? Wow. So how about that? The end of Rome. We've been here for these 2 seasons. It's taken me a long time to get through them, mainly because I took that long hiatus in the middle. Sorry about that. But I certainly enjoyed my time with this series. I know everyone was saying, I wish it had been longer. They had to pack a lot into season 2, and I agree with that. I mean, if this show had been longer, more budget, there's so much more they could have shown. But I'm pretty happy with what we got. I think it was a fantastic 2 seasons of television. And though, we've gone through all these episodes, I've sort of corrected, or not even corrected, but compared the fictional aspects to the real history and noted when things were sort of an accurate representation. I thought they did a pretty good job. maybe not getting the details right, but sort of getting the vibe right of this era of Roman history and a lot of the characters. Right? I think a lot of the characters, they depicted them here how I may have imagined them in my head, some of them differently. I think they really gave a lot of life to these historical figures who oftentimes are hard to imagine as real people. I think they did a really good job of that. So I had a great time with this series. I really, really enjoyed it. This episode was excellent. As always, the entire series, I had a great time. So once again, thank you everybody who's been following along with the series. If you would like to see any of the episodes I've filmed, full, unedited, you can find those on Patreon. And thank you so much to everyone on Patreon who's been following along for this series. I do really appreciate it. By the way, if you're interested in having me react to any other historical movies, shows, historical fiction, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you'd be interested in me watching. Now we're done with Rome. I'm sort of looking for other things to react to. So please, leave a comment. With that, I hope you guys are all having a great day today. Thank you so much for following along, and I'll see you all again next time. Goodbye.